Okay, so today was the Challenge Cup final between Hull KR and the Leigh Leopards. Before I go into the match review, sad news is emerging on fan groups on social media concerning why fans were late turning up to the game. There has been a fatal collision on the M1 involving fans on the way to the game. And I will say this now, this cup final I think is a fitting tribute to the rugby league family, because it was so intense, because it was enthralling, entertaining. Because the rugby league family globally, while we have our differences when it comes to our clubs and the officials and some of the rule changes, rugby league is a massive family. And unfortunately today, according to reports, we've lost members of that fantastic family. So it's some somber news. I think it does unfortunately overshadow what was a fantastic final for entertainment and tension and going down to the wire. So I'm just going to put that out there. Anyway, let's go on with the match review. I'm going to inject a bit of humour into this match review because of the sombre news. It's what I do. Humour always lifts the spirits. I think the players wouldn't have been aware of what has happened on the M1, and a lot of the fans in the stadium may not be aware. They may be aware. But whenever we get dark news and sad news like this, I've always had that humour side of things. We've got to be positive, I suppose, and know that the sombre news shouldn't detract from the rugby league family, and there will be a lot of support coming in from the rugby league family for those impacted and affected by the news coming out of on social media about the fatal collision on the M1 that meant that about 20 to 25,000 fans couldn't make the final. So there we go. Now we can debate whether Wembley is a suitable location for the Challenge Cup final on another day. Let's break down the game anyway. A lot of controversy in the game, in my opinion. The game itself, on a technical standpoint, was not great. On an entertainment standpoint, was fantastic. And I always try and look at this as a neutral, because I'm a London Broncos fan when it comes to English Super League clubs and English Championship clubs. I'm a Broncos fan. The game itself, on a technical standpoint, as a neutral, was scrappy. Control of the possession, as in ball control, poor. Penalty count for both sides was too high, and discipline as well for foul play. I'm surprised there was only one sin bin. There was a couple of late shots in the game. There was a couple of flashpoints in the game, and the referee did give team warnings for the players rushing in and having handbags, so they would say. Because back in the day, they would have been fully flared up punch-ups, which maybe the game should bring that back a little bit. The game itself, because of poor discipline, Leigh take the lead through a penalty on 5 minutes. Ben Reynolds slots the penalty. More poor discipline results in another penalty on 14 minutes. Now, Ben Reynolds misses the penalty. The ball doesn't go dead. Ryan Hall catches the ball, runs it out of the in-goal area, and starts a set of tackles. Sean Kenny-Dow continues with the momentum. It's the Menonchella line break which creates the try for Jez Litton on 15 minutes. So within a minute of potentially going 4-0 up, they're 6-2 down. Massive 8-point swing there. Massive swing of points there. Schneider, until 4 weeks ago, was a Canberra Raiders player, the other team that I follow in rugby league. He converts it. Now, fast forward a few more minutes. Was it a penalty try controversy? I would say no to penalty try, but yes to penalty and sin bin for a professional foul. You could have sent off Lachlan Lamb or Josh Charnley, in my opinion. Opachik kicks the ball through. Lachlan Lamb, instead of diving forward for the ball, he dives across him. Josh Charnley's got a grab of his jersey. You could have sent either of them to sin bin for that. Referee doesn't even give a penalty. That is a cop-out by the officiating team. I wouldn't have given a penalty try myself, because he's too far out and there's too many Leigh players around, and he's not guaranteed to pick up a bouncing ball cleanly to touch it down. We've seen, that happen in the past with players on the way through, chip ahead, and they've, fouled up they've knocked on or not got down with pressure cleanly. But a penalty and a sin bin should have sufficed. They get neither. I think that's a major turning point because a few minutes later, Lachlan Lamb scores his try. Now, the humour injection. Firstly, Lachlan Lamb, that is a what reminds me of Romania in the 90s at the World Cups in the football with the bleach blonde, Team Unity haircuts with they dye their hair peroxide white. Lachlan Lamb, I don't know if he's trying to disguise himself as a leopard, but that is a hideous haircut. It is a fashion disaster. Much like Leigh's rebranded jerseys. I love the fact that they've rebranded the Leigh Leopards. I'm happy with that. The jersey design, my God, it's like it's like Geordie Shore or Towie. That kind of fake tan, chavvy kind of leopard print wearing um, lady. It looks like their wardrobe has vomited over the Leigh Leopards. They've got that jersey design wrong. But I will say this. That's my humour. I will say this. In about 10 to 20 years, those jerseys are going to be highly collectible pieces and will become fashionable. We've seen it with the ugly jerseys from the 90s in a variety of sports: ice hockey, football, rugby league, rugby union. Ugly jerseys from 20 odd years ago are now really, really desirable to collect. They are hideous. They are so ugly, they're collectible. Because I do believe they are going to be collectible. That's my humour bit of it. But Lachlan Lamb's try, that's great halfback support play. He didn't quite crack it in the NRL. He may get a sign for an NRL club in the future if he can be consistent in his play and stay fit. And he just didn't quite get it developed right in the NRL. Much like Brad Schneider, he hasn't got a place at the Canberra Raiders because there's too many halfbacks in the Canberra Raiders system. Although he's a young player, he may go back to the Raiders and develop. I think giving him game time in England as well. So both halfbacks haven't quite established themselves in the NRL. Come over here, they both have good games, in my opinion. In a scrappy game, Lachlan Lamb deserves his try. Reynolds converts. Now the sin binner. This is where I'm going to get passionate. Very, very passionate about concussion and concussion protocols. It's a late hit on Reynolds, the kicker, by Minicella. There is no wrapping action, and there's an elbow to the head, back of the head, which is, I think, the worst bit about it, just at the base of the neck. Because Ben Reynolds has turned, Minicella's raised his elbow and copped him with it. Now, did he intend to drill him in the head with his elbow? Probably not. I think they're both trying to protect themselves from a collision. I will say this, the ball's gone, there's no wrapping action, and he's led with an elbow, hits him in the head. Was it the most forceful? No. Should Ben Reynolds have gone for an HIA assessment? Yes. Did he? No. Did Minicella deserve a sin bin? Yeah. Of course. It's a headshot. Regardless on intent or force, it is a headshot. The reason why I get passionate about this is I played the other code and I've had concussion. I've had knees to the head, I've been stamped on, I've had when I'm making a tackle, I've had a teammate friendly fire, I've been hit high, I've been spear tackled. I've had blows to my noggin. The after effects I'm still feeling 12 years after I last played rugby. Let that sink in. I'm still having issues with my sleep. I'm still having issues with getting blurry vision occasionally and headaches. 12 years later, a lot has happened in the amateur, semi-pro and professional ranks of both codes in the last decade and a bit, and more research has been done. The last time I got concussed playing rugby, I've played the following week. I shouldn't have been playing. I should have been in hospital having tests. I played on. I got concussed twice in the same. I got knocked out twice in the same game. I'm just going to put that out there. That's not good for you. After the game, I had beer. I was knocking back alcohol. That is really not good for you. A lot has changed. The culture has to change. This is why I don't agree with the commentary and the halftime analysis saying they didn't think that was a penalty or worthy of a sin bin. I'm sorry, I completely disagree with Jonathan Davis and the rest of the commentary team. Jamie Peacock, Jamie Jones Buchanan, and John Wilkin. I have to and John Kerr. I have to completely disagree with them. Completely, 100%. All of them have had concussions in their career. I can tell you that for a fact. All of them have dished out concussions to other players with either late shots, high shots, shoulder charges back in the day, if they're old enough, like Jamie Peacock, for example. We have to protect the passer or the kicker. There was a late hit later on in the game that went unpunished on a late shot on a player who's passed the ball. Again, no wrapping action, straight shoulder. People saying the game's gone soft. Tell that to a friend or relative who is maybe an amateur player, or you may even have a professional player who has retired or is having health impacts because of headshots or late shots to the body, where they've had broken ribs or fractured spine, anything like that, where they've had internal injuries or a head injury. You tell that to someone who's been hit late when they're not expecting it, when they're vulnerable. Just going to put that. That's my rant on the headshot. I think it's a sin bin. I think it's a fair punishment. The player doesn't really protest. Kenny Dale, the captain, doesn't protest. I think they've realised, we've got to cop that. They deal with the sin bin very well. Yeah, Reynolds lots of penalty, but they get their own penalty on 40 minutes. Now, Ben Reynolds, did he headbutt on the ground? The touch, he's got to come off his touchline onto the field. The whole players have reacted. There's another coming together. This is where I think the referees copped out. They couldn't get a really clear angle from the camera footage. However, he did give both teams a warning about players coming in after the whistle and having their pathetic handbags. No punches actually thrown. Any more of that, players go to the bin. It happens again in the second half after half time. No players are sin binned after having that team warning. That's where I think the officials have had a poor game. Brad Schneider slots on a penalty in 46 minutes after half time. Now, there's 20 minutes where the game is swinging either way. Sets are getting incompleted, poor last kick options, running on the last play when you're 20 metres out. It's not the best game technically. Briscoe scores his try in 66 minutes. Now, Briscoe, he likes scoring tries in finals, be it grand finals or Challenge Cup finals. He has a lot of them. He's done it again. That's on 66 minutes. That looks like it's broken Hull KR. Leigh Leopards are going to win the game easily at this point. Hull KR, that sin binning has taken it out of them a little bit, even though they dealt with it at the time. Their physicality, their line speed, they're getting tired. Reynolds converts. Now we get to the bit where we've wasted 5 minutes of our time on a video review that should have taken 30 seconds. It is clear and obvious Zach Hardaker off that Schneider kick has hit his forearm and it's gone backwards, and Matt Parcell has scored the try. Why the video ref has got to waste 5 minutes of our time going, I can't tell if that's clear and obvious, when it is clear and obvious that if it hasn't hit his forearm, it's hit his pec and it's gone backwards. The whole player has not made any contact with the ball with his fingertips. Zach Hardaker, he could have caught that. He could have really, he's really got that wrong in his defusal of the kick. It leads to the try right on the stroke of full time. I've blown up because I'm obviously, as a Canberra Raiders fan in the NRL. Brad Schneider, I do believe, is on a short-term contract at Hull KR. I think he's probably going to go back to Canberra. I think Canberra wanted to give him some game time because he's a Canberra product. A little bit of bias there. But I've blown up. It's 5 minutes of what should be an obvious 30 seconds. Well, that's come off Zach Hardaker there. This is a quick video review. No, really waste of time there. Now, Schneider keeps his cool. It's 5 minutes of wasted time. He slots the conversion. We're going to golden point. The game, in my opinion, scrappy, messy, but my God, it was bloody entertaining, I tell you. As a neutral, I was glued for the whole match. And I've got ADHD, so to keep my attention for 80 minutes, you're doing something. I did spend a fair bit of time swearing at my laptop monitor because of how bad the handling was, the amount of penalties, silly penalties, poor handling errors, poor ball retention. You've got to protect the ball. Why are you carrying the ball like that? You deserve to knock it on. Not protecting the ball, going into contact with the ball in a bad awkward position. Just technical things that really you don't see often in the NRL as often as you do in Super League. This is where the golfing class between rugby league and the NRL and rugby league and the Super League is evident. It's the protection of the ball, the tackle area, the ruck area, the play the ball speed, the pace of play. There is a golfing class on average. Now, there are some bad NRL teams right now. West Tigers. They are bad. They're so bad, they're making it fashionable to lose. But there is a clear, and that's got to come down to coaching. That's got to come down to grassroots development. The field goal attempts. How Leigh have missed the first one, that's down to kick pressure, yes. But That is yeah, that's not good. That's not a good field goal really. It's right in front of the posts, misses it to the left. But kick pressure, you can say that was a snap field goal. They didn't quite get settled. Hull KR's missed field goal. They're too far out. Wrong option. And Hull KR always seemed today to make the wrong option on last tackle. Kick that to a corner, kick it to touch, reset your defensive line, really make them come out. That was a Hail Mary attempt from about 45 metres out on the pitch, but about 50, 52 metres on the angle. Schneider's got a boot on him. And as a Raiders fan, I've seen him play, in the NRL. He's got a boot on him. But that was poor decision making. They've got that set wrong. They haven't got the distance on the set. They haven't, made as many metres as they should have. Weak carries. Bear in mind, Leigh's defence was very passive. They could have driven much more up the field. Now, Lachlan Lamb, father-like son, scoring in a final. His father's the coach. He did. They didn't set up that field goal great. There is kick pressure, but they got the blockers in the right place, which they didn't have on the first attempt. They learned from the first attempt, we've got to get the kick blockers in place where they're not interfering, but they've got enough within the rules or to force the whole defence around them without actually interfering physically while not changing their line. And that is a pressure field goal. And I know Lachlan Lamb didn't quite establish himself in the NRL. He was at the Roosters. They have a lot of halfbacks in their system and a lot of 5/8s in their system. But that is a pressure kick at a pressure cooker moment. Golden point. The only other game that I can remember going to Golden Point, apart from the semi-final between England and Samoa in the World Cup last year, is the 2015 NRL Grand Final, which to me is the greatest greatest rugby league game of all time. My opinion is that 2015 NRL Grand Final, because it was high quality and it was tense. This was low quality and it was tense, but my God, it was entertaining. Now, I've been passionate about concussion. I'm going to say this about the commentary. Shit. Jonathan Davis needs to fucking retire. I rarely swear in videos. I rarely do. He can't pronounce player names. Apparently, headshots, they're not penalties to him. There's not much force in that. And, yeah. I don't believe Jonathan Davis has ever coached. Now, John Kerr, okay, he's been a coach. He's won, a Challenger Cup final. But again, the game has evolved so much since these guys last, coached at a high level or played at a high level. It's evolved massively. They are stuck in the 90s with their views. Commentary was bad. The halftime punditry, especially when it comes to that late hit and head-high contact, I disagree with them vehemently, but they contradicted themselves. They contradicted themselves about the headshot and that late hit on the kicker. Whether it was soft contact or hard contact, there was no mention of the fact he didn't go for an HIA assessment, which he should have. If you look at the way Ben Reynolds falls to the ground, I would say that's at least a Category 2 concussion there for grading. If we're going by the grading that the NRL used, that was an obvious. He's actually a bit groggy there because he's taking the point of an elbow to the back of his neck. To me, that is foul play. So I have to disagree with the commentary. I have to disagree with the pundits at half-time. To me, yellow card all day long. As a minimum for any head contact, I think that's how we should go. And we have to stop late hits on players. And when people say the game's going soft, if the player is relaxed and not expecting it and he gets drilled, or he's getting a shot to the head, that is a grub play that has always been illegal, but referees have copped out from enforcing the rules for too long. Now they're finally realising concussions and internal injuries are harming players' health post-play. Players are retiring early because of concussions or repeat, injuries to the body that are avoidable if Minchella wraps his arms, brings him to ground safely. That's not a penalty. Hull will probably win the game. But that's irrelevant. I'm always passionate about concussion and injury and player welfare because I've played rugby union at community amateur level. I've got friends who play union professionally. I've got friends who play league, amateur and semi-pro. To me, I've got subscribers who play. both codes. I have seen worse hits go unpunished, but we have to protect the player who's kicking or passing the ball once the ball has left. Late dirty hits have got no place in the game. Now, whether he intended to drill an elbow into the back of his neck, back of his head, yeah, not a lot of force in it, but it's enough to injure the player. And what we know about neck and head injuries and internal body injuries now that we didn't know 20 years ago, when you just played through like a fractured rib, or you played through a broken eye socket, Sam Burgess, or you played through like being actually knocked out and should be in hospital, but you played on because it was the manly thing to do. I'm just going to put it out there. Wally Lewis, with his early diagnosis with potential CTE, he's got brain damage. We believe his epilepsy is a result of his head knocks. Andrew Johns has got epilepsy. Again, evidence is concluding that epilepsy can be triggered by a severe head injury. Boyd Courtner, Jake Friend, Lachlan Coote. These are players who've had to be forced to retire in the last couple of years. I mean, Lachlan Coote could have played in this cup final, but he was forced to retire because he had multiple concussions this season alone. That's why I get passionate about head knocks. That's why I get passionate about player welfare. The game has not gone soft. The game is still just as brutal as it ever has been. But with that brutality comes consequence. And I think a lot of armchair fans don't realise, either A, because they haven't even played the game since they're at school, at any level. They might not have played for 30, 40 years. But they're quick on the keyboards, going, the game's gone soft. This game was far from soft today. There were some big hits going in. And you could see it on the players that, they were hurting. In saying that, was it the best cup final to watch? Technically, no. Was it entertaining? Yes. But that's my review on the 2023 Challenge Cup final. I know I've ranted a little bit in this one, but I think it's justified a little bit. And again, I'm going to reiterate this at the end, as I said at the beginning, rugby league's a big family, and the sad news is that we potentially, until confirmed, but we've potentially lost members of that family in the crash on the M1 earlier today. So I'm going to leave that. I started on a somber note, I'm going to leave on a somber note, and all the passion and humour in between. Thank you very much for making it through this video. Really appreciate it. Place your thoughts on the cup final below. And I know my language was a bit fruity in this video, but I feel that, unfortunately, the game, the sport needs to protect its players. And unfortunately, we haven't got consistency in that area yet. I think we're making progress. So I'm going to leave that there. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll have some more content for you very, very soon.